Boom! Episode 113. We gotta believe. It's me. It's Positive K, KFC, and we have a special guest on the program, a fixture on Mets Twitter, longtime friend of the program, pal. I've met him at a couple barstools at the ballparks. We've had a good time talking shop, and I don't even know what to call you, Meek Phil. You're just you're internet savant. I don't know what to say.
Oh, I thought you meant you didn't know like he's Meek Phil. That's a weird. Yeah, no, he's internet. He's all things Mets. I think he's the best follow on Mets Twitter. He's Meek Phil. That's what he is.
I'm just a very online internet person.
Yeah, you are plugged in. Like not many people are plugged as plugged in 24/7 as most Barstool people are. Most civilians, as I'll call them, are not on as much as we are. But you're right there, man. I mean, and you know what? You know how Twitter like feeds it to you. So once you start clicking on a few Meek Phil tweets, they are just all over your timeline. And I've never followed someone that I'm like as in agreement with at times, and also as in disagreement at times, but always like. You know what I mean? Like if you usually disagree with someone online, you're like, fuck that person. But even when I disagree with Meek, I'm always down with him. So I think, are you the first like Mets Twitter person we've had on? Yeah, Joe DeMeo on, right?
We had Joe on, Darren. I mean, it's like Mets Twitter. That's like what's what, you know what I mean? But we've had a few different people through.
So welcome to the show, Meek. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Let me also shout out his handle too. So if people want to follow him, it's because I screw this up all the time because he has like extra L's. He has that underscore. Yeah. It's MEEKPHILL _. Is that right? Did I get it right?
Yep, 2 L's in my name.
You've actually got like a nice following going now, right? I mean, when I first started following you, it's just like every other Mets fan on Twitter, just kind of messing around. But I feel like you've got a solid following now.
Yeah, you probably followed me back when I had like 1,000 or so, like 4 years ago. I got like 11K now, I think.
Yeah, I feel like at that point, you're beyond like just Mets fan on Twitter. You're a fixture of Mets Twitter, and like, is there any thoughts of doing content like officially in any capacity?
I still haven't thought of that yet. That's like a lot of big stuff. So
yeah,
I try not to get too big of a head with myself. So. I don't know.
No, I just feel like at that point, that's a sign that enough people are down with you and the opinions you put out there that you could do a podcast or video recaps or whatever. But that's good shit, man.
I know this. I know I have 11,000 people that like me. There's probably like 20,000 that hate me. So that's just the way the internet rolls.
I know that game. So
yeah, that's the thing about the internet. They'll get your head small. They'll not let your head get too big because they will pop it with a pin the minute they can. That is for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into it. Only one game has been played since our last episode, so there's not too much new to recap here, but it is nice to get a different perspective. It is crazy to me, and this is how I know that being a Mets fan and being a diehard sports fan in general is a full-blown mental illness. But last night, like, even just getting a win, it changed my whole night. Like, it changed my whole fucking night. I was driving home as we won the game. I was listening on the radio, like, put it in the books as I was getting my pizza for dinner, and I was like, this night is amazing. And, not much change. It's not like we erased the last 2 weeks or anything like that. But just getting a lead, having a big hit, big rally, scoring, multiple runs, and then a clean, easy inning from Diaz. It literally changed my night. How are you feeling after that W, Meek?
I felt better. For one, I would like to have a game where we, score early, take a 3-0 lead, you pitch well, a normal win.
Right.
Yesterday's just a win. It's like, oh, thank God, they actually fucking won for once.
Right.
Like, it's. Maybe that happens today with the 2 doubleheader games. They actually, win normally, but I'm not going to get too excited. Just score runs and win at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even when times were good earlier this year, it was very rarely like an easy, non-stressful win. Like very few, 9-1 victories where it was like this thing's over in the third inning. It was always one run, like knock them down, drag them out, slobber knocker type, like tightrope walking type shit. So yeah, it's been stressful, man. It's been an awful 2 weeks.
I mean, the last easy one they had was the Cincinnati game where Stroman had 8 scoreless innings. They're like, maybe they could do this more often. And then,
for real.
Then the homestand started.
The fact that you can pick out individual games as remember that game that was easy, and it's like everyone does because that's how fucking rare they are. Absolutely crazy.
So the rest of our lives we're gonna be just chasing 2006. That was the drug. The regular season of 2006 was so fucking glorious. Just sitting back, and it's like when they did lose, if they did blow a game, we're like, it's all right. They're gonna just beat the shit out of them 8-2. You know, it was the absolute. It wasn't even just winning the games. It was just not having to worry about the losses. Yeah. First of all, Brandon Drury. I said you were like marry, fuck, kill, Brandon Drury, Lenny Harris, or Lenny Dykstra. I was like, Brandon Drury could put it wherever he wants on me right now. That guy has brought so much, just not even brought joy to my life. He's just not brought death and darkness to my front door. That's all I can ask from him. And I was going to that 9th inning. And again, Joe DeMaio is the president. I'm the vice president of the Trusted Diaz fan club. And I was like Jon Snow with the horses coming at him gif. Because I'm like, if he blows his save, everyone's going to be so mad at him, even though there was 7 other runs given up by other pitchers. It's going to be all Diaz's fault. And I was like, fuck, this is going to suck so much.
You know when Edwin has it just off the first pitch. You see that slider go in down the plate, 89. You're like, okay, he's got it today.
Bro,
there are other times you see it's up and in high fastball. You're like, oh, this is gonna be it. This is not happening.
I'm telling you, man, I've never seen anything quite like it. It's one pitch. As soon as you see that catch, you're like, whoop. You're like, fuck, that's it. We're in for at least, maybe he cobbles it together, but it's going to be a grind. He's going to hit at least one batter. He's going to walk at least 2. There's going to be a warning track fly ball at the very least. It's amazing that guy. I joined the Trust Diaz club for a little while, and then I got burned a couple times, and so I'm like on the outside looking in. I'm always kind of like I don't even trust you guys anymore for fully trusting him.
It's now Trust the Trumpets, because remember his ERA is a lot lower at home. He just needs to hear the song. We have to do the hardball where he wears the headphones on the mound and we're all dancing along. That's how it's going to go. But I completely understand. I will say this, though. You have to admit, it's kind of nice to have a guy who the first pitch, you're like, all right, I'm going to just change the channel and I'll check back in 5 minutes and hope that they make 3 amazing defensive plays by the hard hit balls. Because Familia has been much better. But Familia, he'll get the first 2 outs, no problem, in 4 pitches. And then it's like, your house burns down 5 minutes later. What the fuck just happened?
He's the 2-out kid.
With Familia, I've never seen a pitcher get so many easy ground balls that the defense just completely screws up. And it's always happened to him though, his entire time here. And it still does.
There was a game earlier this year though where he legitimately got 6 or 7 outs. It was in a single inning. It was absolutely absurd. The latest true Diaz tightrope. Which it was a couple weeks ago. Obviously, we won. We ended up getting through it, but I think he tiptoed through the 8th, I think, and it was bases loaded, nobody out, whatever the situation was. And I got up and walked the dog. I was like, I'm just not doing this. I'm just gonna go walk the dog. I'm gonna go out for a nice stroll at night, walk around the block. Timed it perfectly, and as I walked in, my mom was like, "He got out of it." I was like, look at that. It's so much healthier for me to do it this way. I mean, thank you, Edwin, but man, do you make it hard. Where are you where's your trust meter on Diaz, Meek?
It's back up to a 7. It could be back down to a 4 by the end of today. So it's very movable at this point.
I don't get the full, the DeMaios and the Clems of the world. They scare me more than Diaz because I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's back to his, shitty self. But to say that you fully trust him is insanity to me because of the conversation we just had. There are days where he's just not going to have it at all. And so how can you trust that?
I mean, you're also saying it now where he was mowing motherfuckers down and could have made the All-Star game and remember it was all those blown saves and the sticky stuff happened and everything's changed. So these are 2 Diaz's we're dealing with, Kevin.
Well,
don't you sewer me?
That's what I mean. It's there's always been 2 versions of him. Juice balls, not juice balls. Sticky stuff, no sticky stuff. Saves situation, non-save situation. 8th inning, 9th inning. Tie game lead. It's all. You never know. It's Jekyll and Hyde. There's variants out there, Clem.
The main thing with him now is that when he does screw up, it's not a home run that you see come away. I think he had 15 home runs given up in 2019.
Yeah.
It's only 2 this year, and one of them was a ridiculous one that I don't want to talk about in Pittsburgh. So
Diaz, my biggest problem with Diaz right now is that this is the second game in a row where he pointed up. And the first one, this one was a pop-up this time. Don't bring back the rollless shit on me.
Bro, I can't understand any reliever who does that simply because you're asking to be mean. Like, that doesn't help a single fucking player on the diamond, and all it does is open you up to being absolutely clowned and being called the Hansel Robles if that ball leaves the park. We know it's in the air, dude. It's not like you have fucking a satellite tracker on your finger that's helping us catch that ball. You're just opening yourself up to potentially being clowned on the internet, you morons.
In fairness to like Robles and Diaz and every other Mets pitcher, there's usually a first baseman or second baseman playing left field, and they probably don't know what the fuck they're doing back then, as is currently the goddamn case right now because we are the Mets. But I think Almora was switched into the game by that point. Nonetheless, still goddamn. Like, as much as this franchise changes, it stays the same, right? It's still Dom Smith playing every game.
So wait, so Phil, where are you big picture wise right now? I mean, it's been a bad 2 weeks. A horrific 2 weeks, collapse-esque 2 weeks, and that has led to a lot of people like big picture proclamations of I'm out on Cohen. We need to break up this core. This is clearly not going to work. Fire everybody. Where are you on that? The macro look at this situation.
I'll say this much: if Sandy Alderson's still like the main baseball guy in the offseason, I am going to be ticked off.
Mm-hmm.
But based off the reports, I do think they're going to get like an actual president of baseball operations, like what they wanted to do last offseason.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have much time. So there's a lot that can happen. I'm not bailing on 2022. 2021, I'm indifferent on. I think this is going to be down to the wire, and I don't think it's going to be a happy ending this year, but it's going to be down to the wire.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. That's why I'm not ready to bail and call and put out a console. I think like the Braves, like all of a sudden, in a matter of 2 weeks. And again, I keep repeating how bad it was because the Phillies got super hot. We got super cold. Things got erased like that. But, anybody ready to just like crown the Braves or Phillies and ignore the last 110 games of basically everybody playing right around 500, I think is kind of crazy. I think that it's going to be close enough to keep it interesting.
I'm going to call my shot here. So this is going to be tied. Phillies, Mets, Braves all tied at 84 wins going into game 162.
Oh, gosh. We have the Braves.
The Mets play the Braves game 162. The Phillies are going to be up 7-0 on God, whoever they play. That game's going to be over. You're not going to worry about that.
Yeah.
The Mets are going to have a 4-2 lead over the Braves in the bottom of the 8th inning. And it's just going to be a slow.
If you gave me the choice of that, where we're in it and potentially going to win, or just like we're out of it by like September 15th, I swear to God, I think I might pick September 15th. I don't know if I can handle that.
I keep looking at the schedule. I had that scenario in my mind. I'm like, this can very easily happen.
Imagine that. I mean, yeah, those games down the stretch playing each other are going to be hellish.
They're at the Marlins. The Phillies are at the Marlins game 162. So the Marlins are going to fuck us the other way. They never help us out.
If we were playing the Marlins would beat us 15-2. If we need them to win, the Marlins will absolutely roll over and die. That's just how the Florida Marlins operate. So
yeah, the Marlins starter is going to be like Tom Glavine game 162.
Oh. Dude, we don't bring that up. We don't bring that game up around here.
Meek, I got a question. Are you a consular? Like, do you have a moment of the season where like, all right, this is a console, I'm out, or whatever? You just kind of follow this, you sick, twisted, you're a masochist, basically.
I watch basically every game. I can't quote-unquote console, so.
Well, that's the thing that people don't understand. You still watch every fucking – I mean, the point of the console is to let go emotionally so that you don't fucking torture yourself night in and night out. And I sometimes, depending on the season, the team, whether I like them or not, how they're playing down the stretch, I can do that. You know, when it's a real dog shit team with guys that are hard to root for, and especially during Wilpon eras, I can let go. But then, come 7 o'clock on a summer night, like, what the fuck else am I going to watch,
Exactly.
Like a really good show or whatever. I'm like, I'll put the Mets on. So I can't ever really quit, but turning yourself over, like letting them dictate. I mean, the Mets will dictate my week, you lose a game on Monday in bad fashion. I'm like, there goes the whole fucking week. And I just can't have that in my life. When I was, 24, sure, whatever. Life is great otherwise. Like, okay, the Mets lost. Let's keep on drinking until 3 a.m. Now it's like the Mets lost and I got to go to bed and wake up in the morning with aches and pains and pay my bills and other shit that it's like, well, life really does suck. So, the console is only there to protect your mental health if you have the self-control to do it.
Oh. I watch every game. I'll let them dictate my life.
You watch every game, period. Not even just the Mets. Yeah. You're all over baseball, top to bottom.
Yeah, I usually have a 3. Like, I have a game on my TV, a game on my monitor, and on my laptop I might have something streaming. So I usually watch 2 or 3 games a night at a time. That's
why I think, man, you really could probably do some content because you're I'm a Mets fan. I'm not a fan of the entire league, the entire sport. I don't follow every team. I don't follow the farm system is tight, and the amount of information that you and some of these other guys on Mets Twitter just have in those weird fucking brains of yours.
I don't follow the farm system at all. I just go by what the nerds say. That's out of my jurisdiction.
I can't do that. That's where I draw the line because I've just been burned too many times. See, that's the other thing. When you're younger, following prospects and whatnot, that's a young man's game. The guys like me and Clem, we've been burned by too many can't miss, gonna be Hall of Fame prospects, and I just cannot get the hopes up. I mean, all of a sudden, Pete Crow Armstrong, we've decided is gonna be, the best player of all time. It's like you guys have never even seen him a single fucking at bat of his. Give me a fucking break.
No, I respect the prospect people because I can't sit in an empty ballpark of maybe 500 people and just sit this guy's a slider speed bat or whatever. Right now it's an 80 grade changeup. I can't sit down and do that.
No.
I respect the people that do because that's way too much for me.
I mean, you got to be a sick fuck to do that, especially if you go to see a pitcher. It's one thing. If you go to see somebody bat, it's like you're gonna get 3 or 4 at bats the whole fucking night.
Not even fucking pitch to them.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's sickening some of those guys out there. But I tip my cap. Somebody's got to do it. So yeah, Alderson I think has been the one. I obviously don't think this was the original plan. I think Sandy was supposed to be there to kind of bring some old school element to it and just kind of be a consultant of sorts. So the same thing with Rojas. I mean, you look at both of those guys, they were plan B really, or not plan B, but just not supposed to be in the main role they were in. So in both situations, I don't think that you can really judge the entire franchise on it because they were dealt a weird fucking hand that they had to, adapt on the fly with both of those positions. Have you noticed though? I mean, Zach Scott has, you haven't seen a headline or a single word about him until just this week. He has the quote about, team players not following protocol or something along those lines. And then what was it last night? It was just something last night. I have it in my drafts. I can't remember. But I feel like just in the past, few days, really, I feel like we've heard more from Zach Scott than all year.
Well, because mainly GMs always do a presser to start a homestand. First game of every homestand is when the GM usually speaks. It's a weird thing. We always do it, bro. He's like, oh, bro, he's speaking today. It's like, oh, it must be bad news. No, It's just the first game of a homestand. It has to talk.
Yeah, what I was talking about was SNY last night, where they put it out saying he said the Mets have been playing mediocre baseball for most of the season, and according to clubhouse sources, that ruffled feathers. Who do you think feathers were ruffled? Because I know who I think it was.
Definitely the offensive players. I could say this. If there's any pitcher that was offended by that comment, I can understand the frustration because they've been working their asses off for 4 months. If any hitters actually got offended at that, then I don't know what to say.
Who do you think? I think there's one guy that's a clear choice.
I know who you think, Kevin, you fucking asshole.
Just say it, Kevin, because I'm not going to say it.
Who do you think I think, Clem?
Pedro, the big man, the big fella.
I mean, who else would say, like, openly let people know that his feathers were ruffled. Who else would think that, like, this has been a good offensive season for him or a team scope? Come on. Who the fuck would say this has been anything other than mediocre? And he has not been as bad as some of the other guys, but not great either. But that should have just said Pete fucking Alonso.
He's gonna wear a fucking like feather boa in the dugout too. Like if he hits a walk off, it's gonna become a thing. The Mets boa. It's gonna be so fucking.
Yeah,
the new home run celebration of chicken. There's guys fucking drop feathers on his head with glue. The home run horse lasted a fucking week.
I was gonna say, have we? Is the home run horse just fucking absolutely dead? I mean, that one was ridiculous. I wonder what happened there. I wonder if that was his idea, trying to make another gimmick happen, and I wonder if somebody eventually was like, "No, we're not doing this fucking horse every time."
I liked the horse. It was just he was the only one that saw him that week.
I know. Yeah, listen. Well, things like that work when you're winning and when there's a lot of home runs being hit. But if you're slumping and it's like a home run like once a week and you bring out your fucking horse, you look absolutely ridiculous. But, that coupled with Donnie Stevenson, coupled with the T-shirts, he's always been kind of out to do a little more off the diamond, which is fine because I know you got to build your brand and your popularity and there's money to be made and all that shit. I just think there are some guys that it comes to naturally and some guys who kind of force it. And I think he, unfortunately, is one of the guys who has to force it. But force he does. Try he does. But I thought that had Pete Alonso written all over it. And I like you said, I can't imagine anybody on the offensive side, if you're being honest at all. Mediocre is exceedingly generous.
They're 29th in runs scored.
I mean, yeah, it is a fucking miracle. I mean, I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit because on the one hand, I've been positive all year saying, that this team can get it done and the NL East is mediocre enough that they can be the team to win and blah, 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 blah. They've been clutch at times. They've gotten it done when it counts, blah, blah, blah. But also on the other side, it's like, it's a miracle that we're even in this position at all. And it's not necessarily a miracle. It's just that the pitching has been, the pitching's been miraculous. And so there's been, we've had a razor thin margin of error and they've somehow stayed within that margin, even with injuries and weird no-name back-end starters and all that shit. But yeah, I mean, the offense, was it you? I think you put up like that. It almost completely mirrors the 2009 offense.
Oh yeah, basically if you take out Pete Alonso's home runs, which I mean, yeah, you take away the 24 home runs, blah blah blah, but like second on the list and on our home runs is Jonathan Villar with 12. I think Daniel Murphy led the 2009 Mets with 12. So
sickening. And I mean, those are years that you do not want to get compared to.
Yeah.
Those late 2000s, early 2010s, you do not want to be one of those Mets teams.
That's the new rule we're instituting. People that compare Steve Cohen to the Wilpons, you have to watch the 2009, 10, 11 Mets yearbooks. Watch them in fucking completion and then go to the baseball reference page and just live through that shit again. Because it was
I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far, Steve. Is this year disappointing in a way? Yes, because they were supposed to run away with this division, honestly. When you see the Braves, the Phillies, these guys are struggling. You would think, okay, this the Mets time to run away with the division. It is disappointing that we're one game back and basically even with these teams.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, do you not put any of that on injury? Like this team has been ravaged by injury.
I don't put it totally on injury because they've gotten healthy and they haven't even played well. Like even back in April when they were all healthy, April was their worst offensive month by far. Like we forget how bad they were then. I think it was like nearly half the games they had 2 runs or less or something stupid like that. But like even like July, like they're getting it. This is basically their healthy lineup minus Lindor. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I think I said this on the last episode. Like, I think we got snake bit so bad where we had like dozen players on the IL, and to the point where now only missing your cornerstone shortstop and your Cy Young is a good thing. But anybody else, if anybody else is going through that right now, when they start their push to the division, if they lose their shortstop and their star number one, they'd be like, we're fucked. And with the Mets, we're like, this is the most healthy we've been. But it's still, I will agree that we're still, we're much more whole than we were. But in a sport where it's 162 and you hope to like build some momentum and finally click and get your lineup set and all that shit, they have not had a single chance at all to ever do that. And I mean, yes, for the most part, all these guys that should be out there are out there. And that's, the problem is like when you finally get healthy, if guys are all slumping at the same time, this is what happens. It's a recipe for disaster. But I don't know. When unless we'll see how the last 5-6 weeks go. But when I look back on this season, I will think of injuries first and foremost, followed by like gross offensive ineptitude. But it's just tough to ask these guys to be firing on all cylinders.
No, I can't really know how to explain it after that, but they overachieved when the lineup was depleted in May and June and early parts of July. Like, I give them credit. Like, when Conforto and McNeil went down in Tampa after they got swept, you were thinking, okay, just keep afloat, and they basically held first place all that time. You were thinking, oh, when we get these guys back, we'll start taking off. They just never took off.
Never did. Yeah, I mean,
they actually crashed the plane. Let's call it what it was. They did not take off.
I mean, Conforto, man. Where have you been a Conforto disciple? I mean, I know.
He's been bad here. I'm not going anywhere else with that. He's just been bad.
No, in the past, like, the last few, because there's usually, I feel like there's a Conforto civil war in Mets Twitter.
No. I know what you mean. Like, this 2021 Conforto is the kind of guy people view him as, like, his whole career.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he's been a very good player. He's having a bad year, whether it's from maybe because he had COVID in the spring, he lost strength. I don't know. Maybe he's getting unlucky. That's the worst thing I hate in baseball. You can make up any random stat and you can say, oh, this guy's not bad. He's just unlucky.
Yeah.
But he just does not look like the same player. He looks like he's too patient at the plate. He's always looking to try to draw walks. And even when he does look like he squares the ball up, it's right at somebody. But when he used to square the ball up, it used to be over the wall.
It didn't matter where he. Right. I mean, I just can't. I mean, the amount of regression is insane.
No, he's regression candidate number one. Like, I couldn't have imagined in a contract year, no less. I couldn't have imagined this kind of year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a comparison, and I know other sports just do not match up because it's such a dumb sport. But I feel like that would be a guy who puts up like 24 a game and then goes out there and has a season scoring like 6 points. It's like it just at this point in your career, that sort of deviation just doesn't fucking happen. It's crazy how bad it's been. Crazy.
I'd still give him the qualifying offer, take the pick at worst. I'm not signing to a multi-year deal in any chance.
No.
I think that bridge is sailed. If anybody else wants to do that, God bless.
Gotta let him walk.
But I don't think you can make a long-term commitment to him at this point.
Especially Boris isn't going to probably leave anything on the table. If he just has to find one team, right? 1 out of 30 to give him anything.
I think he might take the qualifying offer if he keeps struggling. That's the thing. Like, $1 million, you might be better off just resetting at that point.
I don't know how many teams out there would really still be willing to offer him anything, enough that, like, again, this is such a bad year. If I'm him, I'm thinking there's no way I ever, hopefully, play this bad again. So this has got to be rock bottom. So for me to determine like my prime years of my contract off of my worst year ever, just it doesn't make sense. He
hit free agency a year too late. If he hit free agency last offseason, he would have gotten the $200 million.
Right, and I wonder when they were negotiating preseason. I don't know how far along those talks ever got, and I don't know who cut off talks with who when the season started. But you got to think that if you had a chance to really put some ink on the paper in February and just blew that chance. Oh my! I mean, that would kill me. If like, just think about it from a regular world point of view. If you had a chance to sign for a healthy salary and you turned it down and then this happened.
And that's the worst. And then people are like, "Oh, they're millionaires; they'll make it back anyway." It's like, how would you feel if you see like 180 million just burn right in front of you?
Right. Yeah, there are some amounts of money that you can't just make right back. So fuck that.
I have to say, Phil, I didn't remember that he had COVID too, and there's a million different guys go through COVID, and I know it's baseball, it's not like maybe like a football sport, but like Myles Garrett was like ravaged by it, right? And all these different guys, and like the long-term effects of this shit, we still don't know, and it sounds like there's like long COVID and all these things. So like, I think I'm giving Michael Conforto like the littlest bit of a pass right now, but I know like bases loaded, no outs, and he fucking grabs a double play or strikes out. I'm just gonna hate him again.
Bases loaded, nobody out. I want him sticking his elbow out over the plate again. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, if I was him, and I'm surprised Boris hasn't been playing that card, I would be like, COVID.
He probably will play that card in the offseason.
Yeah.
That's going to be the binder. It's just going to be about like the effects of COVID is going to be Conforto's entire Boris binder.
He's going to get like Dr. Fauci with his binder. It's like, look, this is why Conforto is hitting 200. Oh my God.
You briefly mentioned Cohen before. Are you? I'll give you two extremes. Are you in the Church of Cohentology with me and Clem, or are you in the Fleming the Church?
No,
of Fleming?
I'm not in the Fleming, so you can just like stop that right there.
Yeah.
I'm not in your church where like everything's all sunshine and rainbows sometimes. But
What are you then? I mean,
I think I'm in the middle.
There's nothing's different. I don't understand that.
Things are clearly different. I'm not saying that. But things are different, but I'm not in like the Church of Cohen. It's like, oh, this is like amazing. It's the best season we've had in years. Like 2015 and 2016 were better than this, obviously. Like, well, Cohen has to go over to luxury tax this offseason for me to really be in that camp again, like with you guys. That's pretty much it. Like, you see this team's bad, go out and spend money and do something about it. There goes.
Yeah, I don't see a world where he doesn't do that. I think what really hurt was Real Muto being good and McCann being an absolute fucking disaster, because that was the one deal where, like, even with Springer, I was never all about him at that cost, and I didn't think like Conforto would be as bad as he was. So our outfield would be lacking so sorely that it would make it look so ugly. But the exact storm that Cohen did need is what happened. McCann was bad. Real Muto's been awesome. Springer's been good enough. Conforto's been a disaster. So all of a sudden it turns into you were cheap and didn't do it. But I mean, he has done enough in one offseason and one trade deadline that like I don't see a reason why we won't be in on.
I'm not going to give you that trade deadline. They did not do enough.
Well, I mean, we're never going to see eye to eye on this. I don't see how anybody thinks this was the year to go all in on it. I don't get that at all.
The Braves literally lost Ronald Acuna to a torn ACL like a month ago, and they had a more active deadline than we did. So that's
I think there's a huge difference between losing one star player and like either having guys currently injured or coming off of injury and or having monster awful like worst seasons ever. I
mean, look, I get where you're coming from, but like asking them to make like 4 minor moves like the Braves did, where you gave up like their best player to give up is Bryce Wilson, who was on track to be a bust over there. Like they got 4 pretty good players for literally nothing. We could have made every move the Braves did. That's what pisses me off about the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, but I also just don't think. Listen, if we had made some, there are fans who can appreciate moves like that, and there are fans who need it to be like absolute large splashes. I don't think that there was a way to like fix all of this team's problems with the trade deadline. And you want to fix most of them, yes. And if you're talking about plugging some holes with them, just like solid ball players, I get that. But I don't think there was anything that could be done that's going to be like, now we're over the top and now we're going to go for it. So I don't think it was a great deadline, but I'm not going to kill him for it.
But we'll disagree on that completely then. You could think that, I'll think what I think, and hopefully in the offseason, Cohen gets pissed at what he saw this year and he spends like a drunken sailor, to use that quote.
You think that there were moves to be made that would like be like we're the clear, like we're good now?
No, not the clear. We're like the Barrios deal or whatever. Like that I had no problem doing with, because the Blue Jays gave up an insane haul for that. Yeah. They got a better offer than the Dom Mauricio, whatever was offered at that point. They were never going to be in on Scherzer and Turner. That was out the window. I think what really screwed them is the fact the Rockies have an interim GM and 3 janitors running the front office. Based on the reports, I do think their plan A was Story and Gray. But the Rockies, for some reason, 25 games under, just said, we're not doing anything. We're not giving anybody up. So I do think that screwed them too.
I mean, yeah, I didn't know that was really like on the table as far as the Mets go. So, all right, so that's off the table. What did you want?
Like I said, like basically everything the Braves. I would have loved Adam Duvall.
I got Duvall in fantasy. He is a fucking.
He has 25 home runs and he ranks in the NL East. He's better than Kevin Pillar, who who's hitting like 180 since June 1st.
A lot of people are better than Kevin Pillar right now.
I think, Phil, you might have said it. Someone said on Twitter, the best thing that ever happened to Kevin Pillar this season was getting hit in the face.
Yes,
It's the truth.
He would be paid by now.
We would fucking be like, we would be pitchforks outside his house being like, cut this motherfucker. But and it's like, I cannot like forget the hit, the like wanting to come back. It was like a dark time for the team and he was ready to come back. But it's been, and we love the Alar boys. I think they were MVPs for basically until like
I still like VR. He's actually a decent player. Pillar hasn't done anything.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you rely on these guys. They would have been perfect for what they did was perfect. It's then when it was like, okay, man, you're going to start for 50 more games, and it's like, well, I'm not good enough for that, man. I'm Kevin Pillar.
The other thing with Pillar is that they also signed him to be a platoon guy that like hits versus lefties, and he has reverse splits. You think he has like a 500 OPS versus lefties or something stupid, like virtually unplayable. And that's annoying with Saturday. So
and you really think like a guy like you think Duvall was going to make the difference?
Yes, because one, you take him away from the Braves, so that takes away wins from them, and they went 1-3 versus the Marlins last week. You don't think like getting like a simple player like that where, hey, maybe this guy could drive in 3 runs in the first inning or something, like get a big hit. Like, you don't think that could have made a difference? Like, we win 3 or 4 versus tomorrow instead of losing 4?
I guess it would make a difference. I just think that, like, I mean, if I'm being really serious.
We're still playing Albert Almora last week. You guys still on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, some of these names for sure. Awful. I get that. I think that there's like 4 of them. You replace one of them with a better player. Yes, obviously that's an upgrade.
You making your roster overall better makes your team better. Like you don't know what like a bigger trade deadline does to the morale of the team. Maybe it makes the guys hit better. I don't know. History does show when you have a big trade deadline, the team plays better.
Yeah,
and you don't do anything at the deadline.
We know that firsthand with a guy like Cespedes, and I mean, I think there was a chance that if Baez has one of his like Baez hot streaks right away, you would have felt that. I just don't think. I think that this team is in it because the NL East is.
No, they're in it because the NL East is bad. That's real. That's it. You don't have to go over that.
Right, and so like this to me, if you could have done these moves without giving up like anything, yes, of course, yeah. If we could get better from nothing, absolutely. But I think that like logically, if I was the owner, if I was Cohen, if I'm the front office, I'd be like, this season is kind of like house money at this point, where like we shouldn't even be in it. It's basically banking on the division being bad, and if we can sneak in, hopefully Jake's healthy and we like make some noise. But I don't think this is the year to be like, let's go get it because we're primed to make a run.
Speaking of Jake, we have his MRI tomorrow, I think.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't know that. Friday the 13th. That's right. You said it was Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, we're going to Jake our MRI. I'm already prepared for the no structural damage, but he's shut down from throwing for another 2 weeks or whatever. Like 8 times. I'm just...
Do you think we'll see Jake again?
I do, but there's a part of me that just doesn't think it happens.
Yeah.
I'm very split.
I'm like, should we see Jake again? Because if there's any, like, again, I know it's like baseball and you get in and anything can happen, but, we've only theoretically, I don't know, it keeps getting better, but theoretically we've only got, a couple more years of his prime. And I don't know if this is the year to risk it. If there's like any worry, like the MRI kind of comes back inconclusive or a little bit shady or whatever. I don't know. It might just be like worth it to say, admirable, like we stuck in as long as we could, but let's not get silly here.
I think if he's healthy, he has to pitch regardless because you want to know what you have going into next. I want to know you have going into next season. So, like same thing with Syndergaard. People are like, oh, Syndergaard shouldn't pitch this year. I want to see Syndergaard pitch, so I know if he's worthy of a qualifying offer. If he comes out throwing like 90-mile-per-hour meatballs.
Where is he at, by the way? Like, have there been bad?
He's like working out shirtless at Citi Field like he always does. I think he's throwing off.
Like I thought we would have either seen him by now or gotten like official bad news from him. I just feel like he's just not here.
They just said he's coming back as likely a reliever, so I'd imagine that means their plan is going to be like, oh, we'll get 4 innings from Rich Hill one day, and then Syndergaard will get 2 or 3. Yeah,
Dick Mountain was not exactly the move you talk about raising morale and rallying the team. I don't think Dick Mountain was that move.
Rich Hill is the ultimate 5 and fly guy. You get 5 innings out of Rich Hill, it's basically a perfect game. That's it.
Yep. See you later, man.
And look, they got him for nothing, so I'm not going to overanalyze that. But, like, again, they could have used another starting pitcher that actually eats innings, maybe like Tyler Anderson for literally nothing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this because, like, and again, some of the guys that the NL East team traded, I think, sucked. But I do think that the Mets are kind of hamstrung where they either have guys that, like, are really good that are, top of the chain, the food chain, and then there's just a bunch of trash or like kind of mysteries. Pico Armstrong, I think, kind of worked out the way it matched up perfectly with the Cubs. But I think Brody spent 2 years just wiping our fucking cupboard clean, So we're like Cohen is, and I will say it's like I don't think we're like blind, like. I fucking am so happy he's our owner, but there's definitely been some things that were either in his control or out of his control. Having a fucking creep GM that they hired by mistake kind of fucked everything up from the front office. But I do think that they're also coming in from years of the Wilpons ruining shit and Brody just being an absolute atrocious. We're going to look back at the Brody era and be like, we could only already do it a year later and be like, this is a disaster. It's an abject disaster. So
we were looking back at the Brody era during the Brody era. Like, it was bad as it was happening.
The worst thing Cohen could have said at his introductory press conference was saying he wants to be the East Coast Dodgers, because outside of spending a bunch of money, I don't think you could replicate what the Dodgers do in terms of like player development, and like the Dodgers will literally get someone's worst player a DFA and then turn him into a 4-win player. Like I don't think anything the Dodgers do outside of spending money is replicable.
Yeah, I
infrastructure, Phil. Believe in the infrastructure. That's what I'm saying. That's what
you can have infrastructure. I don't think you can copy that infrastructure.
I think that, the idea of like spending a little more internationally and developing players just like in a better, you hope that's more of a vague reference. What that is being like, we need to just stop doing what we've been doing here. The previous regime, like redo everything. And again, that's where I think like, if you were the owner of a business, forget about a baseball team, you take over and right away you have to undo everything the past regime did. While you're trying to do that, you get fucked over by a weird texting creep scandal that you never like. Yes, now we know we got to be more diligent. So there's no blame, but at that point in time, it was like, not in their power. You lose your manager as well. You have a fuck ton of injuries. And a bunch of your employees are like, underperforming. And you are taking this over thinking long term. Like I just think this would be the year where you'd be like, whoa, Jesus fucking Christ, we got to get some things in order before we go turn into the East Coast Dodgers. And I think Mets fans and every fan wants it like now. I think Mets fans particularly all of a sudden became the most like impatient, petulant, now, win-win-win team.
I get what you mean. Like I said, I was fine not blowing through a tax in year one. What does suck is he was willing to go over the tax for Bauer of all people, which I am pissed. Like that's the guy you were willing to go over the tax for, which felt like a Hail Mary at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go too much into that. And like you go back, like we said, the offseason to begin with, like they had to get a catch. They had to upgrade a catcher. You weren't going to go Wilson Ramos. JT Realmuto wasn't signing in December, so that's what I jumped on McCann. But there were other options other than McCann. Like there was, I don't know if there's trade options. Maybe there were better defensive options you could have gone with, or I don't know.
Yeah, McCann has. McCann
they got what they paid for. That's basically it. And
White Sox fans had me thinking that we got like the steal of the century with him, and it's like there's a reason why he was a backup catcher. He sucks.
And Francisco Alvarez is going to have like the weight of the world on his shoulders because of how bad the McCann contract is going to be.
And you know what also? Like, listen, if Francisco Lindor just came in and had a good Francisco Lindor year, I think everything would be different.
Just in April. Just a good April is all he needed.
Him being that bad, nobody could see that happening. I mean, yes, I know there's been regression, but nobody saw it being as bad as he is. And if Cohen in year one made that move, made that extension, and we had like a rock solid superstar shortstop putting up like 35 home runs, it would be a very different story. No matter what else happened, all the other bad shit could happen. That alone would have been like Cohen's the man.
I think it'd be worse if they didn't extend him at this point, honestly, because then he'd be like, oh, they traded like all four of those guys for a 1-year rental. I do think it would be worse at this point.
Yes. So, I mean, and if Baez, we've definitely seen the ugly side of Baez, but we've only won, like 3 games since the break.
And he's won 2 of them.
Single-handedly won 2 of them. So let's remember, some of the good times as well. What do you think about the Mets fan base on the whole?
There are certain people I like. There are certain people I hate. I don't want to dive too much into that either. I think you kind of get my drift.
I say it all the time. I know what you're talking about.
Shut the fuck up.
No, the Frank does get annoying sometimes, even though Frank was right. And look, is he right that the team sucks now? Yes, but when you start preaching the downfall for when you say the sky's falling for 3
Right.
months, like it does get annoying at that point.
On the whole, I feel like we've become like so whiny and like, I mean, do you not remember? Like Clem said, you got to go watch 2009 if you're gonna like talk shit about this regime. And like, there's no patience. I used to think that the Mets fans would like understand the idea of building a franchise the right way and the foundation.
Sports fans are dumb. Just say it right now, sports fans are idiots. We're all idiots for caring about a ball and stick game.
Right, I know. Yeah, you're right. And I had higher hopes that Mets fans would because they are like, to be a Mets fan, you got to be like sick in the head and you got to be patient and you got to be kind of willing to put up with a lot. And so I thought that there would be some understanding there, but no, it's just like, we need to win the World Series right now. Like, what?
Look, I'll be disappointed if they don't win a division. I thought that was bare minimum year one because the division does suck. And if you don't win a bad division year one, like it's gonna leave a sour taste.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't put it again just because we are the Mets and you're coming off of a shitty regime. I know there's some good players. To me, it wasn't like you must win. I thought it was more like you like absolutely have to contend and be in the mix. But if you would have told me that we'd be a game out at this point, I would have been. And it didn't happen in this fashion. Let's say it was just a normal season where you happen to end up being a game out in August. I would have been okay with that.
Also, if you told me we were a game out in August, but we're like 12 games over 500, I'd be like, okay, fine. It means the team's playing well. But like no, like we're 2 games up and we're a game out. That just means everyone else, we're just as bad as everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think like the offensive injuries have kind of been the focus for obvious reasons, and then they suck when they come back. And even though like if Jake was healthy, he'd probably just be losing the 1-0 games again. That's just the way it would have went. But like losing
he'd be
Jake,
driving his own runs. That's
that's true. That's true. He's doing it all himself.
He's driving his own runs and leave in the 5th inning with like some
miss him.
forearm tightness.
So good. He's so good. I feel so bad for him.
But like even like Carrasco, like we didn't know Carrasco was going to miss half the season off the jump, so we thought Noah would be back by like June or July, and it's like all that stuff is adding up, along with Taiwan getting kind of like Taiwan. I think they would have just thrown on the injured list if everyone else was back, but I think they kind of just have to be like, hopefully he gets it together here instead of resting up because his innings are crazy. The amount of innings he's pitched, it's like 113, 53. This is by far the most he's had in like 4 or 5 years. So it's like all that goes along with then the offense, just the regression. The injuries, all that stuff. Nimmo, thank God for Brandon Nimmo. Listen, I love Nimmo. I was kind of like the first guy on this podcast to try to turn the haters around. Even then, like I know he's going to get hurt again. He's going to get hurt again this season. He's going to get hurt next year. It's like that just kills your entire offense, and that is a skill is staying healthy. Yeah.
Nimmo's like the one offensive player where you say like he's given us basically everything we expected.
Yeah.
I think that's clear.
There's like an IQ that comes along with it where you just know like you're going to get the right at bat. You know what I mean? He's going to approach the situation that we're in correctly. It's like Javi Baez is going to go up there and just do Javi Baez things.
He's just going to swing and you hope he hits a home run. But look, I love Javi, but he's been that player for 7 years. He's never changing his play discipline. So.
Never. And, whether it's leading off the second inning with nobody on or it's, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded and, the pitcher has no command and you want to, like, grind out an at-bat, he's just swinging for the fence right fucking way. It's just how it goes. I think Joe DeMeo said last night, I don't know why anybody has ever thrown a strike to Javi Baez.
No, you don't have to. You literally don't have to.
Yeah.
He's our middle infield Yoenis Cespedes, and he's get run acquisition. He's going to do some awesome shit. He's going to make you go crazy. He's going to swing at a bunch of garbage pitches, but you just hope he hits more over the fence than he does into the catcher's mitt, and you kind of go there. And I will say this: I do think, and on Twitter it's tough because you only see the people who write to you. It's a loud, very annoying vocal minority. I think there is a ton of Mets fans because we see it in the mentions and stuff. People are like, guys, I'm right there with you. It's just a bunch of assholes, and it's going to be in half the time. If you look at the people who are chirping, it's like Yankee fans who are just trying to get a rise out of Mets fans. So everyone just fucking believe. Get your cords laid out. Chill out. Everything's going to be all right in the long term. I'm telling you.
Chill out, Pete Alonso. Chill out with that. Just smile. Just smile. Like here, that's like Pete is been here for a cup of coffee, and probably when it's all said and done, who knows where he even ends up. And it's always he does not ever say the right thing in the right moment. Like, yeah, you have to understand this city and this fan base a little bit better. Like nobody's smiling. Nobody was even smiling when it was going good. Baseball's not fun for us, Pete. Baseball is like a curse that we have to live with, so don't tell me to just enjoy the game.
I'll say this about that Pete presser. I think it was like early July. It was like the late series versus the Phillies in late June, early July, whatever it was, where we split versus them, but we honestly should have been swept by the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
And Reese Hoskins like basically told the reporters like, don't forget to write about the good things too in a series where they split in a series they should have swept.
Yeah.
So like, look, players say it all the time. There's two ways you approach it. You either have the optimistic, like, we're gonna be okay, or it's like everything sucks.
Well,
you know what? He has to back it up, and I think he did yesterday.
The first half of that quote was like good. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember nodding along with it, being like, "Yeah, all right, that makes sense. And then he was like, "Just smile." It's like, "Fuck you."
We get to watch baseball, and it was like, "Don't you tell me, Pete? Don't you tell me that watching baseball is fun or
it's
good,
not, bro."
Yeah, I get to watch Juan Soto and I'm field bomb in the first inning. That's
I was. You gotta be fucking kidding me! We're already in a 3-0 hole. The fact that we won that game, like
24 hours later, like you said,
with Soto leading off the ninth against Diaz too, and that was like, holy shit! That game, we've lost that game a million times.
And then like 25 wins this year, though. It's like, this is a team that they lose back then. Like, maybe thinking the Wilpons were in charge, maybe we would be 25 games under 500.
That's what I'm telling you. Believe in the Church of Coentology, Phil. It'll change your life. It'll make everything just seem better, even if it's not better.
All right, so we'll wrap it up here with what's your prediction for the season? Well, you kind of already gave it.
I gave you my 162 prediction.
Yeah,
I think we'll get 84 wins at this point. I don't know if that's optimistic or not.
And you think so? We'll ultimately be on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
What about this? So this is the last podcast we have before the fucking gauntlet begins. We got the Dodgers and the Giants. We got 13 games coming up. What would you guys sign for right now in those 13 games as a record to be like, I'll take it?
The Giants, Dodgers, and who?
Giants, Dodgers, Giants. Giants, Dodgers.
Right.
Here and there, home and home.
Okay, I didn't realize it was just them. That I don't. Like I said this earlier in the year, I said we're not going to play well against the Pirates because that's how it just goes. And I was like, we'll even it out with some series that we should get our asses kicked, and we play well. Now that was before like the great collapse of 2021. So now it's harder to predict that. But, I do, the Mets are a weird team that can be infuriating and confusing. And so I think maybe one of those series or one of those teams will surprise in a good way. But that's just too many games against good teams in a row. That's
I'm not prepared to see the probables against the Dodgers, where it's just every guy is like a 3 ERA and he's.
Well, we face Buehler and Scherzer this weekend, so I was putting that out there.
Awesome.
Sunday Night Baseball, Carrasco versus Scherzer, just writing that down.
I almost hope that of course, I'm hoping for some miraculous stretch here, but I either want that or I want to I just want to get our doors blown off and just put me out of my misery because I don't want to do. I don't want to do a stressful September like this if we're not going to make it. So
would you sign up for 5 and 8 right now? Just give me 5 out of 5 and 8. Like that's a gross. It's not pretty, but 6 and 7 to 500. Or would you take 5? If I give you 5 and 8 right now, and then it's like, all right, now you have to beat the Marlins and the Nationals. There's 20 games against them versus 6 against the Phillies and Braves, and then hope to make it to that last weekend with 84 wins, like Phil said, game 162.
I think they go 6 and 7 versus the Dodgers, but then I think they just come home versus the Marlins and split that series for no reason.
This is all so much.
Right. Like 6 and 7, I would 100% sign for. So I probably will talk myself into just one game less than that, a 5 and 8. But yeah, like that's what I mean. The Mets are infuriating like that. Like
they don't make sense.
Someone turn it around against the Dodgers, but blow it against the Marlins. Like that makes perfect sense in the way that it's always been. But Cohen's here, so maybe it finally goes different. So I'm going to say no. I wouldn't sign for 5 and 8 because we're going to go at least 6 and 7.
There you go. I like that.
We literally went a week without a lead, and we're still sitting here predicting wins versus the Dodgers and Giants. What a full week without leading a baseball game.
That's football, Susan. That's how it works. I don't know how. I don't know why, but it's a dumb fucking game where all of a sudden, what should happen shouldn't, and what shouldn't happen does, and it's God. I hate this game so much. I hate baseball so much.
I'm just saying, if Lindor and DeGrom are healthy, I'd say 7-6 would have been like what I expected going into this. Just because they are a dumb team that pisses us off, you figured they'd go above 500, and then, like Phil said, come home and lose to the Nationals and the Marlins or something like that.
But, get it rain in LA. We got a 7-inning game in LA or something.
Yeah, for real. Jesus.
Oh God. I was hoping today would be a 5-inning game, the first doubleheader, because it went from 9 to 7 to 5, and we keep just trimming fucking
innings off. Missing Jake just sucks because it's like on a very literal level, he's a great pitcher. You hope you win the game, but I think at least as a fan, and I would imagine in the clubhouse too, there's something mental when it's like this should be a Jake game, and instead, it's a fucking Eichhoff game or whatever.
Oh my! Don't say that name.
Some of the names that we've thrown out there in the back end of the rotation. We didn't
know who Tyler McGill was back in June, and now we're like, oh, I feel confident him going.
He's the best. The best you got. It's scary. So, all right, man. Good talk. Stay safe out there in these Mets Twitter streets. And so, usually we finish off with the "you gotta believe," but it sounds like you don't really believe.
I do, but I believe deep down. I'm not showing it though.
That's a true Mets fan. That's the mark of a true Mets fan. I'd say no, Phil is a real one. And as sick as it sounds, and as much as it will fuck me up mentally, I kind of want to see that 162 happen just so we can clip this and then tweet it out.
I hate that I gave you an idea now because I see
you put it into the world, Phil. You put it into the world.
We do not talk that into existence. That will literally I'm pacing around my house like a madman in these random July and August games. A 162 showdown, 3-way tie. It would kill me. It would kill me. Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.